After Myles Garrett's trade request, the next biggest storyline coming out from the Super Bowl and Radio Row and everything building up to the big game has probably been some of the draft rumors surrounding Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. So I want to break it all down and talk about that on today's episode. Quick reminder, though, to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. That way when we get more draft rumors and news like this, you are in the know and on top of things. So let's get ourselves to 41,000 subscribers. But I think a good starting point for today's episode is a few days ago when a couple of Browns fans went to Huntington Banks Field Stadium and protested the Myles Garrett trade request, just kind of expressed their frustration to the franchise, to the front office, to the whatnot. Shedeur saw this, quote tweeted it on Twitter saying legendary, and that definitely got some Browns fans pretty excited about, okay, we've got a player who kind of looks at the Cleveland Browns sports fandom and just overall Cleveland sports mecca of the way we look at it. And so we take this and we fast forward to Friday when his father, Deion Sanders, was on the Rich Eisen show. He went down to New Orleans. He's hopping around from a couple of different outlets talking about his son Shedeur and his almost adopted son Travis Hunter. And on the Rich Eisen show, Deion Sanders said he spoke with the Browns and he spoke with the Giants. He had not spoken with the Titans yet. And he did not follow it up by saying, I told these two teams you cannot pick my son. And this has been a topic of conversation for weeks and honestly months at this point. Will Deion Sanders let his son play wherever? Because if you recall a few weeks ago, Deion on a podcast said he's going to want his son to play for a team that has a good understanding of the quarterback position, and that the people in charge would make sure that his son was built into a successful system. So, by all accounts, it appears, for now at least, Deion is okay with the Browns selecting his son, which is something that I have said plenty of times on the show. I'm not too optimistic he will give the green flag for that to happen. Now, later on in his media tour, he was on ESPN, and they talked about, hey, where do you think your son Shedeur could go? And he said, anywhere in the top three. Quote, wherever, it's in God's hands. To me, this does not sound like someone who is going to be a hurdle or get in the way of the Browns selecting Shedeur. So for people like myself and others watching that thought, hey, it does not appear that Deion is going to let anyone just pick his son and he's going to want a little bit of a say in the matter, somewhat like Arch Manning did with Eli Manning when the Chargers selected him and he said, no, you will be playing for the New York Giants, and swooped in and forced the trade to happen. That does not appear to be the case as of now with Deion Sanders. I also think it's worth noting that Shedeur, I just don't believe is a good enough prospect for his dad to get in the way of him being a top 3 draft pick. There are some good things to Shedeur's games, and we're going to look at that in the second half of today's video and do a deeper dive on him as a prospect. But no, Shedeur is not like a Joe Burrow type prospect or a Jaden Daniels type prospect, where coming out he was viewed as a no-doubted number 2 player, number 1 player in this draft class. Some experts out there don't even think he's a top 10 player in this draft class, but because of how important the quarterback position is, he could go a lot earlier than that. So if I'm Shedeur, I'm not letting my dad get in the way of me being a top 3 draft pick when you don't even really have the tools and the skill set to be a top 3 lock or to be good enough to say no to some teams. Having said all this, if you want a little bit of a nugget that has come out of Radio Row down in New Orleans, Shedeur's name and the Cleveland Browns have come up in the same sentence a lot. And I'm wondering if the Browns maybe go down the Shedeur path at number 2 to try and entice Myles Garrett to stay in Cleveland. Maybe the original pitch they had for Myles for what the next season or two of Browns football would look like was, we're going to go after a guy like Kirk Cousins in free agency. We're going to try and stay competitive this year. And then in 2026, we're going to draft the quarterback of the future. And Myles looked at that and thought, cool plan. I do not want to be a part of a bridge quarterback and then a rookie in 2026. That's too long of a timeline until we're back in a competitive spot. Whereas I think you would have a better chance of selling the Browns being a better team quicker with a quarterback at number 2. Because you could just tell Miles, here's the plan. You saw what the Commanders did this past season. They went QB at 2, and we're in the NFC Championship game. We want to do that. You saw what the Texans did the season before that. Took C.J. Stroud number 2, and they beat us in the playoffs, as we all know. That is a plan that I think you could sell Miles on to make him stay in Cleveland. Now, I've made it sound very, very simple of just insert quarterback at number 2, and you can have the next Commanders or Texans postseason run. No, Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud are 2 awesome prospect quarterbacks coming out, and I don't think Shedeur is quite at their level, but we can all agree, if there is a plan to try and persuade Miles to stay in Cleveland, it's probably something along the lines of, we're going to go quarterback at number 2, and we're going to get the next rookie sensation. Before we get on to the rest of today's episode and some of the other Shedeur Sanders conversation, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you do not have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is they offer the Game Time guarantee. Let's say you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you up to 110% of what you paid. So download the Game Time app today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Visit Game Time if you want to go check out a Cavs game, a concert, or any other event in your area. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk about Sanders as a prospect, because I'm guilty of this, and I'm kind of the perpetrator of this. Far too often, we kind of have our minds made up on some of the big name prospects early on, and then we look for reasons to prove why we are right. But I do want to just spend a few minutes getting to know Shedeur as a prospect, and not necessarily a Browns-driven idea, like Browns-driven draft target, but Shedeur overall. What does he look like? What's his profile? You can look at his stats over his 2 seasons at Colorado. He started off at Jackson State, transferred to Boulder with his dad and Travis, and you got to give him credit. Wherever he's gone, they've been winners in some ways. I mean, I know that his first year in Colorado, the wins-loss record was not great, but think about what Colorado was in 2022, and here comes a guy who played at an FCS school, and immediately you can feel the impact that they had at CU. So from a number standpoint, the thing that jumps out to me the most, and if you want to sound smart in front of your friends, it's his accuracy. That is his calling card. That is definitely the number one thing he brings to the table. If you are making a perfect quarterback out of all the prospects in this draft class, and you want to add someone's accuracy for Shedeur, like that's what you are going to offer up for a composite perfect QB. He's also got great toughness. The guy was sacked 99 times over the past 2 seasons, and he got up from every single hit and got back in the huddle. Hardly missed any time at all. I didn't watch every single Colorado snap, but no, Shedeur was not someone who was limping off the field and missing a drive. Now, he's also partially to blame for some of those sacks because he held onto the ball a lot, which brings me to a nice pros and cons for Sanders' profile. Let's start with the pros, a little compliment sandwich. It's a good little life hack right there. Pro, he's a pocket passer. And if you're looking for someone who can stand in the pocket and can dissect and dice up a defense with a good offensive line, he has done that at Colorado. Now, you need to have a good offensive line for him because the con is he doesn't have great escapability. If things start to collapse a little bit, he's now one to just throw it out of bounds and live for another play, move on to 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10. No, he tries to hold on to the ball, and that leads to, 99 sacks over the past 2 seasons. Another pro, the accuracy and the toughness like we talked about earlier, but also the guy is a little bit clutch. I mean, he has made some incredible plays in key situations, Hail Mary conversions, third and fourth down drives, last-minute drives down the field. He does have a little bit of an it factor to him where ball is in his hands, 2 minutes to go, and he doesn't blink. He doesn't get nervous. The moment's not too big for him. He does have this it factor is the best way to put it of you want someone who wants the ball in his hands in the last minute of the game? That is Shedeur. Now, unfortunately, he does not have an elite arm. If you're looking for a prospect who can just flick his wrist and throw it down the field with ease, Cam Ward is your guy, right? Joe Milton from the Patriots, who a lot of people want to trade for. That's what he does well. Shedeur does not have an absolute howitzer of a right arm. He can make all good throws, but no, he is not someone who, on the move, can throw across his body to the other sideline 40 yards down the field. Those are just throws that he's not going to be able to make most likely. So this is a good overall breakdown of what Shedeur is like as a prospect and what to kind of expect from him, I think, at the next level. A lot of people compare him to Geno Smith, which I think is a fair comparison. Geno's got good accuracy. He doesn't have crazy arm talent, but he makes a lot of good throws. And in a good, clean pocket, he can be very successful, which we have seen in Seattle over the last couple of seasons. The question you got to ask yourself is a Geno Smith type quarterback worth a second overall draft pick? In my opinion, no. To me, Shedeur screams, in the right situation, he can be successful. And now we get to that point of the video where we ask ourselves, is the Browns the right situation? Like, do the Browns have a good foundation in place where if Shedeur steps in, he won't be asked to elevate everyone around him? And that's usually what you need from a quarterback you're taking top 3. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, those are all quarterbacks who, when they were selected, the team looked to them to go, we have a lot of problems. We need you to fix our problems, and we don't even have a great budget to fix our problems. So you're going to be working with a little bit less, but we need you to make up for that. I don't want to just completely poo-poo on Shedeur because I don't have a crystal ball to say whether he'll be good or not. But I don't get the sense that he can do that for a team if they need a lot of elevation from the QB. The Browns' offensive line is in a weird spot. It's good, right? Conklin's an all-pro. Bitonio's good. Wyatt Teller's good. But also, Bitonio might be retiring. Wyatt Teller might be traded or cut because he's got a big salary cap hit coming. Ethan Posick took a step back in 2024. Jack Conklin's been dealing with a lot of injuries, as has DeJuan Jones, and Jed Wills is a free agent. We just talked about how Shedeur with a good pocket is a good quarterback, but when it starts to break down, he really starts to break down. And this offensive line, I don't know if it's one you can trust. The wide receiver room, Jerry Jeudy, he was 5th in receiving yards this past season, over 1,000 yards. Like, that's a great target for Sanders to link up with. But Moore's going to be a free agent. I want to believe in Cedric Tillman, but we only have a few games to go off of before a season-ending concussion happened against the Steelers. Is that 2-3 week stretch enough to believe, like, yep, that's a true number 2 receiver in the NFL? Maybe, maybe not. But again, we come back to Sanders seems like a person that can thrive in when everything's right. And I think that's a bit of a backhanded insult because you're basically saying if things aren't good, he can't be good. But there are plenty of quarterbacks who we have seen be really successful when things are good around them. Take Jared Goff, right? Look at all the things he's been able to do in Detroit, but he's had 2 great running backs in Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. He's had a top 5 offensive line, and he's had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta to throw to. And now he looks like a top 10 quarterback. I kind of get that Sanders could have a Jared Goff career. And if he does have a Jared Goff career somewhere else, Browns fans are going to be really quick to go, how did we not take this guy? It's happening all over again. We saw what happened when things weren't great with Jared Goff. And it wasn't so good. And that's the projection I want to make for Shedeur. So I'll turn it over to you. Be the host. Put the headset on. Do you want to draft Shedeur Sanders? Give me a yes or give me a no in the comment section below. I kind of have put myself in a position where you could look at me saying, no matter what, I'm right. Because if Shedeur's really good with another team, I'm going to come at you with, but he would not have been good on the Browns. I'm kind of at the point where it's starting to get a little bit of traction. And when that happens, my fandom, like my thinking of a pre-draft process is when it seems like a player is going to do a team, I try to be optimistic and look for the pros. But I do have my concerns. So this is the last video that I'm filming before I'm off for Saturday and Sunday. So I thought we could just end it with a little bit of Super Bowl talk here, because there'll be other videos that go out before, the kickoff on Sunday. But this is my final video. It's Friday. It's 6:41 p.m. on the East Coast, and I just wanted to hang out a little bit longer with you guys here. So the last kind of thoughts I have here on the game, I want to go Eagles. I think the Eagles are better at almost every position other than quarterback. If you think about the Chiefs' top 5 guys, most of that's probably rooted in their offense and defensive line. And I think you would take the Eagles' offensive line over the Chiefs' offensive line. And it's probably the number 1 and the number 2 offensive lines going at it. But if we remember when this game was played 2 years ago, the Eagles came in with the number 1 pass rush in football, 70 sacks. I think that was an NFL record for sacks in a season by a team. And Mahomes never got touched, never got sacked once. If the first half ends and it's tied and Mahomes has been sacked twice, I'm pumping money into Eagles live money line. Because now I'm starting to see a little bit of cracks in the Chiefs offensive line foundation that has done an excellent job of protecting number 15. So if it's tied at halftime, but the pass rush is starting to get to Mahomes, I think over 4 quarters, the Eagles' style of football will beat the Chiefs' style of football. But if it's halftime and it's tied, or the Chiefs have a slight lead, or even the Eagles, they had a 10-point lead 2 years ago. Sorry, Reed. And there's no pressure on Mahomes, then I think over 4 quarters, the Chiefs are going to win with their style of football, which is we're going to protect Mahomes, and if it's a close game in the 4th quarter, he's going to win because the Chiefs' defense is fully capable of making stops, and we trust Mahomes in any situation with the ball in his hands.
We currently don't know the status of Jalen Carter and his illness.
Yeah, the illness
it is Friday,
unfair.
So if Sunday comes around and he's fine,
dude,
then yes. But
pardon my French, but fucking pump him full of Dayquil and NyQuil and roll him out there. All right, let's pick a card to end our episode. Which card do you want to select, Mr. Bartkus?
You know what? Let's go with Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades? Okay. Ace of Spades is my favorite secret menu item from Torchy's Tacos. But you know what I can't have? An Ace of Spades. 'Cause I'm on a diet. This sucks. And I'm like the worst person to be around. I'm on a diet right now. Because I'm hangry. I'm hungry. I'm not even angry. I'm just hungry. I eat sleep for dinner. I go home and I'm just laying in bed and my stomach is growling. I'm eating salads. I know. Well, I did this to myself over many years, so no one should feel bad for me. But I'm intentionally ordering salads that kind of look disgusting so that I lose my appetite when it's in front of me. That's my diet right there. That's the book. Order shit you know you don't want and you lose your appetite.
Petey had air for lunch today.
I did. I had like 3 bites of cucumbers and broccoli. Cold broccoli is the absolute worst. Steamed broccoli I like. Fried, great. Roasted, cold, like iceberg cold. Okay. You said Ace of Spades. I gave a diet tangent. I'm gonna go with the 8 of clubs. I'm not gonna change it. 9 of clubs. 9 of clubs. Okay, that's gonna do it for us on today's episode. Enjoy your Super Bowl weekend and parties and whatnot, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.